Hello, hello, everybody. Jeffrey Bartow here, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the 10 reasons why Bernie Sanders is our best chance to beat Donald Trump. So let's begin reading this article. The author. The article is published by on, and it's a 20-minute read. I was hoping some background music would keep the tone, you know. Oh yeah. Let's see. All right. My answer is yes. Yeah, because otherwise Trump will win, and we'll have another 4 years of Trump. We can't have that. So chant with me. No, no. Say no to 4 years of Trump. Say no to 4 years of Trump. 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 No to 4 more years of Trump. No to 4 more years of Trump. Still, I think it still needs working on, but you know what I'm getting at. Anyway, let's continue.
elect a presidential candidate on their ballots. The top reason given for not voting was a dislike for the candidates, with the percentage citing this higher than it was in the previous two elections combined. Clinton was viewed so unfavorably that a majority of those who preferred Trump supported him only to oppose her, not because they liked him, resulting in a drastically higher rate of negative voting than has been seen in recent history. Despite a vocal minority wishing to portray Bernie as divisive, fewer Democrats say they would never vote for him than would never vote for Biden or Warren. On top of his high favorables, Bernie is consistently viewed as the most honest and trustworthy candidate who best understands the problems of people like you. If we nominate him, Trump a sizable chunk of these negative votes he relied on to win. Running another out-of-touch and unrelatable candidate like Biden would likely hand Trump millions of disaffected voters once again.
So keep that in mind, folks. If you heard that. If you didn't pay attention, I'll go over it again.
On top of his high favorables, Bernie is consistently viewed as the most honest and trustworthy candidate who best understands the problems of people like you. If we nominate him, Trump will lose a sizable chunk of these negative votes he relied on to win. Running another out-of-touch and unrelatable candidate like Biden would likely hand Trump millions of disaffected voters once again.
One more time.
Running another out-of-touch and unrelatable candidate.
Wait.
If we nominate him, Trump will lose a sizable chunk of these negative votes he relied on to win. Running another out-of-touch and unrelatable candidate like Biden would likely hand Trump millions of disaffected voters once again.
One more time.
Running another out-of-touch and unrelatable candidate like Biden would likely hand Trump millions of disaffected voters once again.
So keep that in mind, folks, when you're voting. Now let's go on to the next one.
Before Bernie has the donors. Donor numbers are arguably more compelling than polling data, considering that the average poll is a multiple-choice question distributed by cold calling 500 random people, whereas donations are an open-ended question presented to the entire nation every single day. Who do you support enough to willfully give your hard-earned money to? Donors by location. Bernie is in blue. New York Times. Bernie is the only candidate to have more unique donors, 1.4 million as of December 31st, 2019, 500,000 more than second-place Warren, individual donations, over 5 million, and total donated money than Trump. At this point, Bernie has more donations from more donors than any other candidate in U.S. history, and he reached the 1 million unique donor mark, which no other candidate has reached, half a year sooner than Obama set the previous record. He's done all of this despite the most crowded primary field in modern history spreading the potential donor pool far more thinly than it normally is with only 2 or 3 major candidates. Because of this, Bernie has more cash on hand than any other Democratic candidate, and he's amassed this war chest despite also being the only one not taking any money from billionaires, corporations, or bundling. In fact, when the spouse of one billionaire tried to donate to Bernie's campaign, he returned the check out of principle. These numbers, which highlight
I wonder if he would return the check of. I know me, if I was a billionaire, I too would give a check to Bernie, but I wouldn't ask for anything in return. All I just was to ask him is to win. All I would just ask for, I wouldn't ask for anything in return for me. All I just want is for Bernie to win. But I wonder if he would still return my check out of principle, or even a check from Tom Steyer. Anyway, let's continue. The only way to know is the only way to answer is to find out for ourselves.
these numbers, which highlight both superior spending power and popularity, show no sign of slowing down either, as other candidates have. 300,000 new people donated to Bernie in the last quarter alone, and, because their small dollar contributions averaging $18 have been one-time deposits of the maximum legal amount from ultra-wealthy mega-donors, over 99.9% of Bernie's contributors can keep giving in the socialism more favorably than capitalism.
Did you hear that? Let me play it again.
Bernie isn't even a real socialist.
One more time.
Though Bernie isn't even a real socialist, even views socialism more favorably than capitalism. Yes, some are still wary of the S word, but the GOP's tired penchant for indiscriminately lobbing the label at everyone, such as noted capitalist Obama, who won anyway, has essentially rendered the word meaningless and the attack toothless. Polls show Bernie actually beats Trump by more when labeled a socialist than when labeled just a Democrat, and even Trump himself has admitted running against socialism in 2020 might not be so easy. In fact, socialism itself is even polling higher than Trump. It's time to stop worrying about what the far right will be scared by and start fighting for what the rest of America wants instead. Still, detractors often point to Trump being the worst ever as a reason why we can't risk pushing for real progress and should instead revert to the safe status quo for the most important election of our lifetimes. While this self-fulfilling excuse for digressing to the mean is almost always, often knowingly, wrong, the opposite is especially true in this case with the most brazenly repulsive opponent in modern history. Even the most anti-Bernie naysayers will find it hard to justify abandoning their own hashtag blue no matter the crusade of the past 4 years. In fact, if a more aesthetically civil and moderate Republican was incumbent, such as Mitt Romney, then hordes of corporatist, centrist Democrats could defect in the name of anti-extremist unity. Yes, you can argue that the stakes are now higher than ever, but that would be precisely why this is actually the best time there has ever been to diametrically oppose what is especially wrong with what is the most right. 6. Bernie has the policies. While those with vested interests in stopping progressive policies will tell you Bernie's platform is too extreme to win, the opposite is true. Practically every single one of Bernie's policies are supported by the majority of voters, including tuition-free public college and abolishing all student debt, the Green New Deal, legalizing cannabis, and expunging past convictions, restoring voting rights to those with criminal records, and expanding employee ownership of companies, to name just a few. Republicans know this. Trump admits Bernie's platform would be a tough one to run against, and Tucker Carlson predicts it will win many thousands of Trump voters. Other Democrats are now adopting policies similar to Bernie's to capitalize on the support he has built. 2. We don't need to choose between electability and popular policies when it's Bernie's policies that make him the most electable. For example, even a majority of Republicans now support Medicare for All, a flagship policy that Bernie took from fringe to litmus test issue nearly entirely on his own. Crucially, Medicare for All still polls with majority support even when it is explicitly stated that it replaces private insurance. These positions truly matter to voters, as we saw when Warren dropped dramatically in the polls following her abandonment of Medicare for All. Because he has the most popular platform, voters consistently rank Bernie as the best candidate on healthcare, on the environment, the economy, and immigration. Top organizations feel the same way. Greenpeace and Sunrise Movement both rank Bernie as their number one candidate to combat the climate crisis with A and A ratings, respectively, and the Network for Public Education grades Bernie highest with an A on average across all areas. By putting people-focused policy over party, Bernie attracts unique crossover appeal. His ability to speak openly and honestly about his ideas to right-leaning voters. By putting people-focused policy over party,
That'd be mine too if I was running for office.
Bernie attracts unique crossover appeal. His ability to speak openly and honestly about his ideas to right-leaning voters, instead of pandering to or disparaging them, consistently wins them over like no other Democrat can.
And I hope, and I'm hoping Bernie writes a book about this or something to explain, or even become a teacher at master some master mass is it called master class? Yep, it's called master class. Yep, it's called master class. So he'll even take a teaching job at master class to help us help us learn about help us learn about help us learn about the true meaning of being a politician, if you know what I mean. Anyway, let's continue.
The candidate that will win is the candidate with the proven ability to earn raucous support for his platform, whether deep in Trump country or in a Fox News town hall, and only Bernie has shown the ability to be that candidate. 7. Bernie has the
And America needs more Bernies. Needs more Bernies, whether they're Democrat, Republican, Independent. You get the idea. Let's continue.
7. Bernie has the demographics. Despite the false narrative to the contrary, Bernie has the most diverse coalition, consistently winning the most non-white, women, and LGBTQ supporters and donors out of the entire pack. He consistently ranks highest with independents and working-class voters and donors too, which will be key in winning over Trump's populist base. On the other hand, largely white, college-educated bases such as Warren's and Buttigieg's are incredibly unlikely to win on their own. Campaign kickoff at Brooklyn College. Spencer Platt/Getty Images. Despite Bernie's age, he is also far and away the crowd at Bernie's campaign kickoff at Brooklyn College. Spencer Platt/Getty Images. Despite Bernie's age, he is also far and away the most popular candidate with younger voters. Bernie is the only Democrat currently beating Trump with college students, and his student support group is the largest in history. Recent polls show a stunning majority of those under 35 currently support him, which isn't surprising considering he received more votes from those under 30 than Clinton and Trump combined in 2016. When looking at the past two Democratic nominations, this demographic has been crucial. Obama won young voters and they carried him to a general election victory, whereas Clinton's failure with youth saw her lose to Trump. Moving forward, this demographic is only becoming more important than ever, as boomers were outvoted for the first time in 2018, and those under 35 became the nation's largest voting bloc. This is not just due to a natural generational shift, either voter turnout for those under 30 even increased 79% between 2014 and 2018, the largest increase for any age group. Passing up their candidate of choice would spell disaster come November. 8. Bernie has the endorsements. Bernie has earned arguably the three highest profile endorsements made so far, with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, and Rashida Tlaib all rallying behind him. Far from the usual jockeying for political favor, these endorsements come from the most progressive members of the U.S. House, and they're bravely sticking their necks out to do it. Ocasio-Cortez formally endorses Bernie in Queens, New York at this primary's highest attended rally, CBS News. As some of the newest members of Congress, these young women of color are the face of a rising generation, and they've co-signed Bernie's vision from a diverse range of perspectives that make up America. Ayoc represents a New York district as a former bartender of Catholic and Puerto Rican heritage. Omar represents a Minnesota district as a Muslim who came to America as a Somalian refugee, and Tlaib represents a Michigan district that is third poorest in the nation as a Muslim of Palestinian heritage.
Let's see that again. Those are the most progressive members. Just remember that. They're not only the newest, but also the most progressive and the most popular. So keep that in mind. And let's hear this again.
As some of the newest members of Congress, these young women of color are the face of a rising generation, and they've co-signed Bernie's vision from a diverse range of perspectives that make up America. Ayoc represents a New York district as a former bartender of Catholic and Puerto Rican heritage. Omar represents a Minnesota district as a Muslim who came to America as a Somalian refugee, and Tlaib represents a Michigan district that is third poorest in the nation as a Muslim of Palestinian heritage.
Listen.
They've co-signed Bernie's vision from a diverse range of perspectives that make up America. They've co-signed Bernie's vision from a diverse range of perspectives that make up America. They've co-signed Bernie's vision from a diverse range of perspectives that make up America.
Alright, you get the idea. Now that.
As the sole candidate still fighting for true Medicare for all, Bernie has also won the endorsement of the country's largest nurses union, the 150,000-member NNU. His support for the Green New Progressive advocacy group Center for Popular Democracy Action, CPD, has 600,000 mostly non-white members also voted to endorse Bernie with 75% of the vote. CPD canvassed an estimated 5 million doors last election, and is behind 65 policy victories, 25 congressional victories, and 110 state legislative victories in just the past few years alone, making them a formidable ally. 9. Bernie has the excitement and stamina. Bernie is best positioned to beat Trump because he is the only movement-based candidate in the race. His nominee, as calls for a political revolution, are resulting in some of the hugest grassroots, bottom-up mobilization the nation has seen in generations. Bernie meeting supporters at a rally in North Carolina, Sarah D. Davis/Bernie images. This is illustrated by Bernie having the most volunteers, over 1 million as of the first week of his campaign, and the largest rallies. His biggest had 26,000 inside and thousands more outside. His campaign consistently puts in the most work. His army of passionate supporters have knocked on 500,000 doors in Iowa and made over 10 million calls nationwide in just the last month, doubling the initial goal. Bernie is getting these results because his supporters are far more committed, confident, and enthusiastic than any other candidates. Not only are they least likely to defect or drop off, but they're most likely to convert friends and family before bringing them along to the polls on election day. Bernie is also by far the most likely to inspire first-time voters to go to the polls, meaning he won't just keep the Democratic base energized, but he'll bring in badly needed fresh blood as well. No wonder the Senate Democrats made Bernie their chairman of outreach despite him technically still being an independent. Even the party establishment recognizes his unique ability in this area. This is especially important following an
Sometimes I wonder what America would look like if we didn't have political parties. I mean, look at city elections. They don't do candidates by party. You tell me what you think about that idea. Do you think we should abolish political parties, or keep them around?
This is especially important following an embarrassing loss in 2016 blamed by many on Clinton's inability to excite. Biden would be similarly unable to inspire the level of engagement needed to win a general election. A recent poll shows just 8% of respondents feel he is exciting, and he has so few volunteers he has to post job listings for canvassers. These are pretty grim signs for the party should he become the nominee. Bernie is able to excite so many voters in part because he puts in the most work. He's essentially been campaigning since 2015, and he's still packing in more events than any other candidate. Even weeks after his health scare, Bernie was back to vastly outperforming Biden, who has been skipping major party events, hiding from the press, and holding only between a quarter and half as many public events as other candidates. Bernie has the stamina to maintain such a rigorous schedule because he's still quite healthy. It's statistically expected that a man of his age would have some degree of coronary artery disease, and the recent procedure he had for it is one of the most common in the country and regularly reverses this condition without ever affecting job performance. Bush, Dick Cheney, and Bill Clinton all suffered the same or worse at younger ages, and Biden has even required brain surgery after suffering multiple aneurysms.
I just hope nothing like that happens to me when I run for office. I'm just, please God, don't let that happen to me. Amen. Oh, sorry, I went like that. Okay, so and a thesis, or whatever they call them, non-religious. I'm sorry, I went like that. Anyway, let's get back to this.
The last time a Democratic socialist pushing a New Deal ran for president, he inspired enough enthusiasm to be elected a record-breaking 4 different times. If you're worried about Bernie's routine operation performed with modern technology, consider how FDR's 19th century born, polio-ridden body won a world war and ushered in an unprecedented era of domestic prosperity, all while confined to a wheelchair.
And FDR and Franklin Delano Roosevelt got ranked among the top 3 best presidents in the United States, despite that. Incredible, right? Now, hold on a minute. dang it. Looks like all this time I had it on. Looks like all this time I had it on. Looks like all this time something went wrong. So now I gotta. Well, I know you heard my voice, so. I know you heard my voice about this, so I'm gonna try. So I'm gonna start over again. I think that's it. Okay. Back to the old. Back to. I'm doing this so this time you can hear. I know you were able to see, but I know you were able to see it, but what if those watching couldn't hear at all? What if those watching can't see at all and can only hear? I feel bad for that part. That's why I wanted to try both ways. That's why I want to do it this. That's why I'm starting over.
10 Reasons Why Bernie Sanders is Our Best Chance to Beat Donald Trump.
That's the article title. Here's the author.
Weston David Pagano.
Here's the
Following.
Here's the publication date.
January 14th.
And here's how long it'll take to read it.
20 minutes read. Mark Makila / Getty Images. In just the past few days, Bernie Sanders has risen to the top in the most recent national poll, betting odds, and the specific poll that has predicted both the winner of Iowa and the eventual Democratic nominee in each of the previous 6 cycles. As his rivals begin to slip and falter, Bernie persists. He not only appears to have the most momentum, he could also be starting to peak at just the right time.
Sorry, I had to fix the music. I'm kind of embarrassed. I'm sorry. Don't take this the wrong way. I'm so sorry.
In light of this, after years of Bernie's viability being outright ignored or downplayed with the same playbook used to discredit Barack Obama, it's no longer just the lefty publications that are paying attention. Suddenly, everyone from Hillary Clinton advisors, center-right New York Times columnists, mainstream media pundits, and even Republican strategists are admitting, or warning, that Bernie could win the Democratic nomination. But can he beat Donald Trump? Only rarely do polls show Bernie being perceived as the most electable, and when out talking with voters I often hear from those who like him, but have been convinced he has a lower chance of winning. As it turns out, despite the false narrative to the contrary, virtually every single metric shows that not only is Bernie the safest choice, he could very well be the only choice. Between 60 to 65% of Democrats currently prioritize choosing a nominee who can beat Trump over a nominee they agree with on the issues, a drastically higher percentage than was seen even after George W. Bush's first term in 2004. Luckily for those who prefer Bernie's policies, they don't have to choose between the two. For everyone else, the time has come to unite around the most electable candidate, even if he's not your first choice.
And he is my first choice. Oh, and also, yes, I do believe he could beat Trump. And
here are 10 reasons why.
So I want you to pay attention, open your ears, and pay attention really closely.
One, Bernie has the proven electoral results. Though Vermont is thought of as a blue state today, this is only recently and marginally the case. Though it's voted that way in every presidential election since Bernie's election to Congress in 1990, before then it had chosen the Democratic candidate just once in its entire history. Vermont's current governor, along with 53 of the previous 59, are Republicans. Bernie celebrates winning election to the U.S. House of Representatives as Vermont's at-large member in 1990, H. Rob Swanson/AP. Vermont's progressive evolution is in large part thanks to Bernie, who has won more elections than any other candidate, breaking the GOP stranglehold on the state's politics. He did this by combating conservatism not with centrism, but principled democratic socialism far to the left of the local Democrat Party's failed opposition, even while the Cold War meant this was not an easy thing to do. After 4 victorious runs for mayor of Burlington, Bernie won the state's only U.S. House seat in 1990, which had been solid red for a staggering 55 of its 57 years in existence. Bernie took this seat from the GOP, and it has been blue ever since he left it. Then in 2006, he flipped a plus 40-point Republican Senate seat that had never been won by a non-Republican in the 152 years since the party's formation, and ended the longest single-party winning streak in U.S. history with a plus 33-point victory. Bernie didn't just win his previous 15 state and local elections, he even outperformed the Democratic presidential candidate every single time these elections have coincided, beating Bill Clinton's percentage in both 1992, plus 12, and 1996, plus 2, Al Gore 2000, plus 18, John Kerry 2004, plus 8, and Obama 2012, plus 4.
Wow.
Bernie isn't just the most experienced at beating and winning over Republicans, he's by far the best we have.
I agree.
On the national stage, Bernie has only ever vastly exceeded all expectations, coming in a strong second place behind Hillary Clinton in 2016, despite challenging the all-but-coronated frontrunner as a then virtually unknown outsider. The first Jewish person to ever win a primary contest, he is the only current candidate who has ever won a single one before, and he has the only proven record of winning battleground states like Michigan and Wisconsin. Compare this to Joe Biden, whose campaign is being kept afloat almost entirely by his purported electability. He has received less than 0.22% of the vote in 3 previous Democratic primaries, during which he insulted voters before dropping out in disgrace after it was revealed he had plagiarized law school papers and campaign speeches in which he lied about having coal miner roots. Elizabeth Warren has only won 2 elections in her entire career, both for a Senate seat that has been Democrat-held for the vast majority of the last 100 years. Pete Buttigieg, who has also only ever won 2 elections, was last re-elected mayor of Indiana's 4th biggest city with an abysmal 14% voter turnout, receiving just 8,515 votes, the least any winning candidate has received since at least 1983. The one time Buttigieg attempted a statewide election, he was destroyed in a historically bad loss. We can't risk less proven campaigners against Trump.
I agree. So that's why the true candidate to go up against Trump is Bernie. So if you're planning to support Biden, Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren, or etc., change your votes to Bernie. Vote for Bernie. Vote for Bernie. Bernie 2020. Bernie 2020. Bernie 2020. Bernie Sanders for president. Bernie Sanders for president. Bernie Sanders for president. Sorry, sometimes I gotta carry away. Now on to the next one.
2. Bernie has the polling. While both Warren and Buttigieg are currently losing to Trump in head-to-head polling averages, Bernie joins Biden as one of just 2 candidates who are winning. Some polls even show Bernie as the only one. Real clear politics. Bernie has beaten Trump in more head-to-head general election polls than any other candidate, consistently winning them by some of the largest margins since July 2015. Bernie also polled against Trump much better than Clinton throughout the 2016 election, and is currently beating Trump on average in 4 of the 6 Obama-held states that she ended up losing. This is especially impressive considering how consistently Bernie performs drastically better than polls predict. We saw this in 2016, when primary polls showed Bernie leading in just 3 states, yet he actually ended up winning 23 contests. Bernie even won the crucial battleground state of Michigan despite being given 1% chance of doing so. This disconnect is due to pollsters notoriously underestimating Bernie's support by underrepresenting and underweighting the demographics he inspires to turn out uniquely well, including young people, independents, who outnumber both major parties, and those who don't usually vote because they are disillusioned with the political process. There are legitimate qualms.
I believe that should change. saying that those who don't vote because they're disillusioned with the political process, I believe that should change. Do you? Don't you agree?
There are legitimate qualms to be had with polling accuracy this far out. But fortunately for Bernie, when they're wrong about him, it's usually because they're not ranking him high enough. Bernie is polling so well despite receiving the lowest proportional media coverage of any candidate, and he is the top second choice of more rival supporters than any other candidate. These two stats indicate he both has the most room to grow and is best positioned to unite a fractured party once the dust clears. 3. Bernie has the favorability. Bernie has the highest favorability and net favorability among Democrats.
Yes, so we need to unite a fractured party, and that's what a leader is. And that's what a leader can that defines a leader. A person that unites, not divides. And Trump is a divider, Bernie is a uniter. Let's go back to this.
3. Bernie has the favorability. Bernie has the highest favorability and net favorability among Democrats, independents, and the overall electorate as a whole, in both the primary field and all of Congress. Bernie even has the highest favorability and net favorability specifically amongst voters who flipped from Obama to Trump. Candidate favorability, ordered by name recognition, and in the case of a tie, alphabetically by surname, Morning Consult. This is a more consequential stat than you might think, as no candidate with a net positive favorability has ever lost to a candidate with a net negative, which Trump has, in modern history. When both major candidates are positive or negative, the one with highest net rating has won every time. Perhaps more than any other indicator, people simply vote for who they like, and people like Bernie the best.
Like me.
With historically disliked options in 2016, nearly 3 million eligible voters did not go to the polls, and an unprecedented 1.7 million people in 33 states voted but did not select a presidential candidate on their ballots. The top reason given for not voting was a dislike for the candidates, with the percentage citing this higher than it was in the previous two elections combined. Clinton was viewed so unfavorably that a majority of those who preferred Trump supported him only to oppose her, not because they liked him, resulting in a drastically higher rate of negative voting than has been seen in recent history. Despite a vocal minority wishing to portray Bernie as divisive, fewer Democrats say they would never vote for him than would never vote for Biden or Warren. On top of his...
Did you hear that one? So the majority reason of why they voted for Trump over Hillary is because of negative votes. Negative voting. Alrighty. Just keep that in mind. And the next time you see someone, and ask him and next time you see someone who voted for Trump in 2016, ask him, did you vote for Trump? Did you vote for Trump because you wanted to oppose Hillary, or because you like Trump? Okay, now back to this.
His high favorables. On top of his high favorables, Bernie is consistently viewed as the most honest and trustworthy candidate who best understands the problems of people like you.
That's the kind of politicians we need in office right now. Political office. Everywhere. Cities, states, the government, even the judiciary, even the president of the United States. Alright.
If we nominate him, Trump will lose a sizable chunk of these negative votes he relied on to win.
Let me repeat.
If we nominate him, Trump will lose a sizable chunk of these negative votes he relied on to win.
One more time, and I want you to keep your ears open.
If we nominate him, Trump will lose a sizable chunk of these negative votes he relied on to win.
Alrighty.
Running another out-of-touch and unrelatable candidate like Biden would likely hand Trump millions of disaffected voters once again.
Did you hear that? If you didn't, let me replay you.
Running another out-of-touch and unrelatable candidate like Biden would likely hand Trump millions of disaffected voters once again.
One more time.
Running another out-of-touch and unrelatable candidate like Biden would likely hand Trump millions of disaffected voters once again.
So it's best you keep that in mind. And not so don't vote for any other Democrat. The only Democrat that's worthy to take on Trump is Bernie. And you'll find out later down the line. But anyway, let's continue.
For Bernie has the donors. Donor numbers are arguably more compelling than polling data, considering that the average poll is a multiple-choice question distributed by cold calling 500 random people, whereas donations are an open-ended question presented to the entire nation every single day. Who do you support enough to willfully give your hard-earned money to? Donors by location, Bernie is in blue, New York Times. Bernie is the only candidate to have more unique donors, 1.4 million as of December 31, 2019, 500,000 more than second-place Warren, individual donations, over 5 million, and total donated money than Trump. At this point, Bernie has more donations from more donors than any other candidate in U.S. history, and he reached the 1 million unique donor mark, which no other candidate has reached, half a year sooner than Obama set the previous record. He's done all of this despite the most crowded primary field in modern history spreading the potential donor pool far more thinly than it normally is with only 2 or 3 major candidates. Because of this, Bernie has more cash on hand than any other Democratic candidate, and he's amassed this war chest despite also being the only one not taking any money from billionaires, corporations, or bundling. In fact, when the spouse of one billionaire tried to donate to Bernie's campaign, he returned the check out of principle.
And let me really quick take a look and see who that billionaire is. We'll go over this later. But I still wonder that if I was a billionaire and I gave a check to Bernie and I wouldn't ask him for anything. I know if I did that, I wouldn't ask for anything in return. All I would want him to do is to win. To win the presidential election. Would he still return my check out of principle, or would he still use it? And as for Tom Steyer, if he drops out of the race, would he donate to Bernie, or would he return his checks? Well, anyway, let's continue.
These numbers, which highlight both superior spending power and popularity, show no sign of slowing down either, as other candidates have. 300,000 new people donated to Bernie in the last quarter alone, and, because they're small dollar contributions averaging $18 and not one-time deposits of the maximum legal amount from ultra-wealthy mega-donors, over 99.9% of Bernie's contributors can keep giving in the future. Of course, due to the Electoral College, the geographic distribution of these financial backers will matter once the checks turn to ballots, and Bernie's is the most strategic by far.
Speaking of Electoral College, I wonder, do you want to... I know I asked a question. How would you like election... How would you like all future election to be by? To be by a popular... Do you want it to be by Electoral College still? Popular vote, or both? Tell me in the comments section, or the chat room.
He leads in 46 50th states, all but the next 4 candidates' home states. Crucially, Bernie has received more donations than Biden, Warren, and Buttigieg combined in the 206 specific counties that decided the 2016 election by flipping to Trump after voting for Obama in both 2008 and 2012. 5. Bernie has the ideology. In the 21st century, the Democratic Party has lost every single presidential election in which they ran a centrist/moderate candidate, Gore, Kerry, and Clinton, and won every election in which their nominee ran as a progressive fighting for change, Obama in 2008 and 2012. Simply.
So that's something to keep in mind. Let me repeat that again.
In the 21st century, the Democratic Party has lost every single presidential election in which they ran a centrist/moderate candidate, Gore, Kerry, and Clinton, and won every election in which their nominee ran as a progressive fighting for change, Obama in 2008 and 2012.
One more time.
In the 21st century, the Democratic Party has lost every single presidential election in which they ran a centrist/moderate candidate, Gore, Kerry, and Clinton, and won every election in which their nominee ran as a progressive fighting for change, Obama in 2008 and 2012.
So I wonder if Gore, someone who won the popular vote against George W. Bush, if he ran for president again, by which running a progressive fighting for change, and meaning it by heart, would he win the office? I just hope so.
Simply put, we already tried putting a neoliberal running on incrementalism up against Trump in 2016.
Hillary Clinton, I bet.
And that campaign and its message has failed.
So repeat. So let's put that again.
Simply put, we already tried putting a neoliberal running on incrementalism up against Trump in 2016, and that campaign and its message has failed.
One more time, and I want you to listen carefully.
Simply put, we already tried putting a neoliberal running on incrementalism up against Trump in 2016, and that campaign and its message has failed.
So keep that in mind, folks. Okay, continuing on.
It's time to learn from that mistake, adapt, and nominate a better and more progressive candidate this time if we don't want another Trump victory.
I agree.
You know that tacky cliche about how insanity is defined as doing the same thing over and over but expecting different results? It is repeated so often for a reason. When people are dissatisfied with the status quo, as they are now with wealth inequality at its worst since the Great Depression era, they will seek out change, as they did in electing Obama. Though it was the wrong kind of change, Trump beat Clinton because he was offering some while she was not, and candidates like Biden that are running on the message that nothing will fundamentally change follow in her doomed footsteps. Trump's grip on working-class populism is vulnerable not to neoliberalism that ignores it, but to Bernie who speaks to and redirects it with the platform that will most comprehensively improve the average American's life, and therefore inspire them to vote in November. The data backs this up. The majority of Democrats now want a candidate more progressive than Obama and, though Bernie isn't even a real socialist, even view socialism
Did you hear that? Wait.
more favorably than capitalism.
Did you hear both of them? Let me play it again.
Though Bernie isn't even a real socialist.
One more time for that one.
Though Bernie isn't even a real socialist.
One more time.
Though Bernie isn't even a real socialist.
And let's hear this.
The data backs this up. The majority of Democrats now want a candidate more progressive than Obama and even view socialism more favorably than capitalism.
Did you hear
The
that?
data backs this up. The majority of Democrats now want a candidate more progressive than Obama and even view socialism more favorably than capitalism.
One more
The
time.
data backs this up. The majority of Democrats now want a candidate more progressive than Obama and even view socialism more favorably than capitalism.
So what you just heard, keep all that in mind. Now let's continue on.
Yes, some are still wary of the S word, but the GOP's tired penchant for indiscriminately lobbing the label at everyone, such as noted capitalist Obama, who won anyway, has essentially rendered the word meaningless and the attack toothless. Polls show Bernie actually beats Trump by more when labeled a socialist than when labeled just a Democrat, and even Trump himself has admitted running against socialism in 2020 might not be so easy. In fact, socialism itself is even polling higher than Trump. It's time to stop worrying about what the far right will be scared by and start fighting for what the rest of America wants instead.
Did you hear that last part?
In fact, socialism itself is even polling higher than Trump.
One more time. Two more.
In fact,
Here, again.
socialism itself is even polling higher than Trump.
One more time.
In fact, socialism itself is even polling higher than Trump.
So keep that in mind, everybody. I wonder this means if we should allow the Democratic Socialist Party to compete to be allowed in the U.S. elections. Anyway, let's continue.
It's time to stop worrying about what the far right will be scared by and start fighting for what the rest of America wants instead.
Exactly.
Still, detractors often point to Trump being the worst ever as a reason why we can't risk pushing for real progress and should instead revert to the safe status quo for the most important election of our lifetimes. While this self-fulfilling excuse for digressing to the mean is almost always, often knowingly, wrong, the opposite is especially true in this case with the most brazenly repulsive opponent in modern history. Even the most anti-Bernie naysayers will find it hard to justify abandoning their own #blue no matter who crusade of the past 4 years.
Agreed.
In fact, if a more aesthetically civil and moderate Republican was incumbent, such as Mitt Romney, then hordes of corporatist, centrist Democrats could defect in the name of anti-extremist unity. Yes, you can argue that the stakes are now higher than ever, but that would be precisely why this is actually the best time there has ever been to diametrically oppose what is especially wrong with what is the most right.
Agreed.
6. Bernie has the policies. While those with vested interests in stopping progressive policies will tell you Bernie's platform is too extreme to win, the opposite is true. Practically every single one of Bernie's policies are supported by the majority of voters, including tuition-free public college and abolishing all student debt, the Green New Deal, legalizing cannabis, and expunging past convictions, restoring voting rights to those with criminal records, and expanding employee ownership of companies, to name just a few. Republicans know this. Trump admits Bernie's platform would be a tough one to run against, and Tucker Carlson predicts it will win many thousands of Trump voters. Other Democrats are now adopting policies similar to Bernie's to capitalize on the support he has built, too. We don't need to choose between electability and popular policies when it's Bernie's policies that make him the most electable. For example, even a majority of Republicans now support Medicare for All, a flagship policy that Bernie...
Did you hear that? That being it. Oh, this. You saw that picture. Let's continue.
A flagship policy that Bernie took from fringe to litmus test issue nearly entirely on his own. Crucially, Medicare for All still polls with majority support even when it is explicitly stated that it replaces private insurance. These positions truly matter to voters, as we saw when Warren dropped dramatically in the polls following her abandonment of Medicare for All. Because he has the most popular platform, voters consistently rank Bernie as the best candidate on healthcare, on the environment, the economy, and immigration. Top organizations feel the same way. Greenpeace and Sunrise Movement both rank Bernie as their #1 candidate to combat the climate crisis with A and A ratings, respectively, and the Network for Public Education grades Bernie highest with an A on average across all areas.
I'll show this later. In fact, oh. Well, you see it. So keep that in mind when you hear that. Now, let's continue.
By putting people-focused policy over party, Bernie attracts unique crossover appeal. his ability to speak openly and honestly about his ideas to right-leaning voters, instead of pandering to or disparaging them, consistently wins them over like no other Democrat can. The candidate that will win is the candidate with a proven ability to earn raucous support for his platform, whether deep in Trump country or in a Fox News town hall, and only Bernie has shown the ability to be that candidate. 7. Bernie has the demographics. Despite the false narrative to the contrary, Bernie has the most diverse coalition, consistently winning the most non-white, women, and LGBTQ supporters and donors out of the entire pack. He consistently ranks highest with independents and working-class voters and donors too, which will be key in winning over Trump's populist base. On the other hand, largely white, college-educated bases such as Warren's and Buttigieg's are incredibly unlikely to win on their own.
Keep that in mind.
Crowd at Bernie's campaign kickoff at Brooklyn College, Spencer Platt/Getty Images. Despite Bernie's age, he is also far and away the most popular candidate with younger voters. Bernie is the only Democrat currently beating Trump with college students, and his student support group is the largest in history. Recent polls show a stunning majority of those under 35 currently support him, which isn't surprising considering he received more votes from those under 30 than Clinton and Trump combined in 2016. When looking at the past two Democratic nominations, this demographic has been crucial. Obama won young voters and they carried him to a general election victory, whereas Clinton's failure with youth saw her lose to Trump. Moving forward, this demographic is only becoming more important than ever, as boomers were outvoted for the first time in 2018, and those under 35 became the nation's largest voting bloc. This is not just due to a natural generational shift. Either voter turnout for those under 30 even increased 79% between 2014 and 2018, the largest increase for any age group. Passing up their candidate of choice would spell disaster come November. 8. Bernie has the endorsements. Bernie has earned arguably the three highest profile endorsements made so far, with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, and Rashida Tlaib all rallying behind him. Far from the usual jockeying for political favor, these endorsements come from the most progressive members of the U.S. House,
And I support them.
and they're bravely sticking their necks out to do it.
My response.
Ocasio-Cortez formally endorses Bernie in Queens, New York at this primary's highest attended rally, CBS News.
A politician should be brave to do what's right, not cow to do what's right, even if that means for getting ridiculed or something. Because doing the right thing is always more important than anything else. Even your own, you know, whatever the word is.
As some of the newest members of Congress, these young women of color are the face of a rising generation, and they've co-signed Bernie's vision from a diverse range of perspectives that make up America.
And if I was one of those members, I would definitely endorse co-sign with Bernie's vision. And we need more people just like those three in both the House and Congress.
Aoki represents a New York district as a former bartender of Catholic and Puerto Rican heritage. Omar represents a Minnesota district as a Muslim who came to America as a Somalian refugee, and Tlaib represents a Michigan district that is third poorest in the nation as a Muslim of Palestinian heritage. As the sole candidate still fighting for true Medicare for all, Bernie has also won the endorsement of the country's largest nurses union, the 150,000-member NNU. His support for the Green New Deal won him Sunrise Movement's endorsement with more than 75% of its 10,000-member vote, and his education platform also earned him the only teachers' union endorsement thus far, when UTLA, the second largest in the nation with 35,000 members, chose Bernie with 80% of the vote. Bernie's labor plans have also earned endorsements from the nation's largest CWA local union, California's 17,000-member UPTE, and New Hampshire's 10,000-member SAU chapter. Most recently, one of the nation's largest immigrants' rights group, Make the Road Action, gave Bernie their first presidential endorsement ever. They canvassed more than 255,000 homes in the 2018 election, and they plan to knock on 600,000 more doors for Bernie in 2020.
Wow.
The 200,000-member American Postal Union has endorsed Bernie too. Progressive advocacy group Center for Popular Democracy Action, CPD's 600,000 mostly non-white members also voted to endorse Bernie with 75% of the vote. CPD canvassed an estimated 5 million doors last election, and is behind 65 policy victories, 25 congressional victories, and 110 state legislative victories in just the past few years alone, making them a formidable ally. 9. Bernie has the
Yeah, I agree. They make it a formidable ally.
excitement and stamina. Bernie is best positioned to beat Trump because he is the only movement-based candidate in the race. His "not me, us" calls for a political revolution are resulting in some of the hugest grassroots, bottom-up mobilization the nation has seen in generations.
Which I'm proud of.
Bernie meeting supporters at a rally in North Carolina, Sarah D. Davis/Getty Images. This is illustrated by Bernie having the most volunteers, over 1 million as of the first week of his campaign, and the largest rallies. His biggest had 26,000 inside and thousands more outside. His campaign consistently puts in the most work. His army of passionate supporters have knocked on 500,000 doors in Iowa and made over 10 million calls nationwide in just the last month, doubling the initial goal. Bernie is getting these results because his supporters are far more committed, confident, and enthusiastic than any other candidates. Not only are they least likely to defect or drop off, but they're most likely to convert friends and family before bringing them along to the polls on election day. Bernie is also by far the most likely to inspire first-time voters to go to the polls, meaning he won't just keep the Democratic base energized, but he'll bring in badly needed fresh blood as well. No wonder the Senate Democrats made Bernie their chairman of outreach despite him technically still being an independent. Even the party establishment recognizes his unique ability in this area. This is especially important following an embarrassing loss in 2016 blamed by many on Clinton's inability to excite. Biden would be similarly unable to inspire the level of engagement needed to win a general election. A recent poll shows just 8% of respondents feel he is exciting, and he has so few volunteers he has to post job listings for canvassers. These are pretty grim signs for the party should he become the nominee.
So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Alright?
Bernie is able to excite so many voters in part because he puts in the most work. He's essentially been campaigning since 2015, and he's still packing in more events than any other candidate. Even weeks after his health scare, Bernie was back to vastly outperforming Biden, who has been skipping major party events, hiding from the press, and holding only between a quarter and half as many public events as other candidates.
I hope I could be as healthy as Bernie when I'm that old. When I'm in my 60s.
Bernie has the stamina to maintain such a rigorous schedule because he's still quite healthy. It's statistically expected that a man of his age would have some degree of coronary artery disease, and the recent procedure he had for it is one of the most common in the country and regularly reverses this condition without ever affecting job performance. Bush, Dick Cheney, and Bill Clinton all suffered the same or worse at younger ages, and Biden has even required brain surgery after suffering multiple aneurysms.
I just hope I don't suffer from any of that. When I'm young or old. I want to be as healthy as ever. Healthy as Bernie, or when I'm that old. Lord, please keep me safe. Wait, did I just do that? Did I just pray? Did I just pray out loud? Oh man. Oh man, sorry for those who are anesthesiasts, or whatever the word is for those who don't believe in religion. Sorry. But take this into account. Religion and science and religion should work together, not apart. Keep that in mind.
The last time a democratic socialist pushing a New Deal ran for president, he inspired enough enthusiasm to be elected a record-breaking 4 different times.
Can you guess who that person is?
If you're worried about Bernie's routine operation performed with modern technology, consider how FDR's 19th century-born, polio-ridden body won a world war and ushered in an unprecedented era of domestic prosperity, all while confined to a wheelchair.
And FDR got ranked among the top 3 greatest presidents in U.S. history. And he ranked as number 3, behind both George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. If you don't believe me, then I'll show you. Here we go. Look at this. All blue. And you know what blue means? First quartile. That means that they're the best. And as for red indicates fourth quartile. That means the worst. And he got all blues from ones to threes. He was one of the greatest presidents in American history. There. So please keep that in mind. So please keep all this in mind. Okay, now the big reveal. Now the big part. I turned off the background music so you could definitely listen to this. And I need you to keep your ears open entirely, because I'm gonna only play it once. Because I'm only gonna play it once. And the only time I'll play it back is when I go after I finish reading this, after it's finished reading it and all, you know. Okay. There we go. 3, 2, 1, go.
10. Bernie has the best matchup vs Trump. Though Trump is
Let me correct that. Number 10, Bernie has the best matchup versus Trump.
Though Trump is unable to intelligently debate policy, he won in large part because of his ruthless effectiveness at using scandals and personal attacks to target establishment politicians.
And that's what I hate about Trump. He used the dirty war tactic. I like for elections to be clean races. No scandals, no personal attacks. Do you all feel the same way? Oh, I know I said I wouldn't stop, but maybe once in a while is fine. Okay, let's continue.
Hillary Clinton's plentiful weaknesses lined up perfectly with his wretched strengths, and it was entirely predictable how he would hammer her with her support for the Iraq War, her emails, an FBI investigation, her husband's accusers that she helped discredit, and more.
And I don't know why the DNC in 2016 tried to rig it against Bernie. Was it because they were afraid that nothing would be done with the GOP controlled House Congress charge, that nothing will get accomplished, or were they just afraid that were they just corrupt and they just didn't want him to win at all? All right, let's continue.
Trump mocking a disabled reporter at a rally in South Carolina, BBC.
That's probably that there is probably the biggest reason I hate Trump. Oh, and when he mocked that disabled person, he was mocking my own kind. That made my blood boil big. How I didn't have a stroke that day, I will never know. Anyway, let's continue.
It's not hard to imagine Trump doing the same to Biden, who he'd target as an embodiment of the corrupt DC swamp equally as well. Trump will point out how Biden often lies about also promoting the Iraq War, has a history of being bad on women's issues and is creepy towards them and young girls, has worked to cut Social Security for 40 years, and can barely string a coherent sentence together. Then he'll hit Biden.
Well, right now for me, because of my autism, I have trouble barely stringing a coherent sentence together. But hopefully, as I get older, that will improve. I hope. Anyway.
For being both to right. Then he'll hit Biden for being both to right of him on trade and easily bought, having donated to the former VP himself. To make matters worse, Biden is now embroiled in a Ukrainian scandal the Democrats themselves are elevating and perpetuating as the unnecessary premise for impeachment. Showing a shocking
But now I definitely know what Nixon trying to cover up the Watergate investigation. Watergate investigation was a clear violation of the law, and we had proof to back it up with those tapes. Just wish we had something like that. Just wish we had something like that against the Trump impeachment. But still, I still wonder if that would have been effective, even with people like with the Senate-controlled GOP and Mitch McConnell in office. Ugh, hate that man.
Lack of temperament. Showing a shocking lack of temperament, he lashed out at a voter who brought this up, raising serious questions of how Biden would handle Trump's attacks on the topic. His bizarre decision to defy a subpoena to testify in Trump's trial will now also make him appear as if he has something to hide, and Trump is already running ads to this effect. Similarly, Warren faking indigenous ancestry and lying about it is simply senseless ammunition to give Trump. She's already played directly into his hands on this, and shown an inability to handle even gentle pushback from liberals. If Meghan McCain can get Warren to crumple simply by repeating herself, then, frighteningly, the senator stands little chance against Trump. Lacking the bravery to even hold a town hall on Fox News, Warren will likely have no answer should Trump claim she has been a Democrat for fewer years than even he was. With his horrid record on race and, well, pretty much everything else, Buttigieg is surely causing Trump to lick his lips in anticipation as well. The inexperienced former mayor is poorly handling being protested by the activist groups we should instead be fighting alongside, and if he's so noticeably flustered and clenching his fist aggressively when pressured even mildly by Warren, one can only imagine how his calculated "aw shucks" demeanor would be battered by Trump's more relentless hounding. It doesn't even matter if Trump's attacks are true or not, but many will be, and the optics can be fatal regardless. We simply can't afford to put forth a candidate who will forever be pinned on the defensive, unable to pivot to the issues, and stripped of the clear moral high ground even if only in appearance needed to hold Trump to account. This is why, as the cleanest and safest option we have, Bernie is the ideal nominee.
You hear that? I hope you did, because I'm not playing it again.
Even the most vocally anti-Bernie advisor from Clinton's 2016 campaign, who has since endorsed the senator, now repeatedly admits there was never any oppo on Bernie that could derail him in a general election, calling him the strongest candidate to handle the right's smears. Voters agree. Despite being thoroughly vetted in the mainstream since 2015, neither party has been able to come up with much besides an awkward critique of gender norms from 1972, a shoddily mischaracterized nuclear waste disposal that never even happened, a few unhinged Russian conspiracy theories, a winter coat his stepson gave him, and some empty insults. Trump still can't manage any better than weakly calling him crazy, if he acknowledges him at all. Trump has even admitted that, had Clinton chose Bernie as VP, the race would have been tougher, saying he was the only one I didn't want her to pick.
And that's something I wonder why Clinton didn't do. Bernie would have been a good VP to Clinton. And then he could have ran again after her campaign was over. Or she did something that got her impeached. Anyway, listen.
There's a reason why Trump also cowardly backed out of his proposed debate with Bernie in 2016, Trump simply knows he can't beat Bernie.
You hear that?
Trump simply knows he can't beat Bernie.
One more time.
Trump simply knows he can't beat Bernie. Bernie can't be attacked as a beltway swamp monster in need of draining because he is the leader of the anti-establishment movement. With his laser focus and lack of scandals, only Bernie can be relied on to not play into, and invariably lose, Trump's games.
Me, that's what I like about Bernie. But me, I don't know what defines as a scandal or not. What defines as a scandal or not? I would need an advisor to help me out with that. Something. Anyway.
At the end of the day, Bernie is the only candidate who can force Trump to stick to the issues, exposing him for the fraud he is. That's exactly how we're going to win. At the end of the day, Bernie is the only candidate who can force Trump to stick to the issues, exposing him for the fraud he is. That's exactly how we're going to win.
One more time.
At the end of the day, Bernie is the only candidate who can force Trump to stick to the issues, exposing him for the fraud he is. That's exactly how we're going to win.
And you know what my personal belief is? I agree with that, but you know what I also believe? That America needs more Bernie Sanders in office, whether they are Democrat, Republican, Independent, part of the Democratic Socialist Party, etc. We need more Bernie Sanders, and I hope Bernie Sanders can do something that can actually help out with that. Help us to be able to understand, how Bernie does it and all. So we could be like a lot more candidates running for office can be like Bernie. Or at least I hope he writes a book about that, because definitely I want to try to understand all this, so I could be like him when I run for office, hopefully. Or he can try when he retires from politics, he can be a teacher for master class. What do you think, Matt? This is Masterclass. If you don't know what it is, let me just point it out to you. Here you go. Masterclass. Where's that one? Here we go. Oh, hang on. I know I gotta. Here's something. Here we go.
Yanka Industries Incorporated DBA Masterclass is an American online education platform. Students can access tutorials and lectures pre-recorded by experts in various fields. The concept was conceived by David Rogier and Aaron Rasmussen too. As in most online education, the classes are not interactive free, though at least one course included interactive assignments, where the student acted with other students, either in person or over Skype for.
So now you understand what Masterclass is. Let's get back to the. Now let's get back to what. Now let's get back to this. Please stand by. I wanted to turn the music back on.
If you liked this article, you might also be interested in A Progressive's Guide to Choosing Between Bernie and Warren, 125 plus reasons you should not vote for Joe Biden, and A Guide to the 2020 Democratic Candidates you should not vote for. Bernie Sanders. Politics.
And I covered all those articles and videos that are on my channel. You could look for them.
Bernie Sanders. Politics. Election 2020. Democrats. Donald Trump.
Those are text.
1,174 claps. Applause from you and 73 others. Written by Weston David Pagano. Following: Juventino, progressive, tall person. See responses.
Now. Okay, now then let's take a look. Especially this one. Especially this.
$100,669 views. Nov 12, 2019, 7 a.m. A billionaire's spouse donated to Bernie Sanders. He's returning the check. Michaela Tindera, Forbes staff. Money and politics. Marta Mahal, president and head of business development of Velodyne, with her husband David. Plus Timothy Archibald for Forbes. Marta Mahal, 67, is married to a billionaire, but she detests the one in the White House. So much so that when Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders labeled Donald Trump a liar over the summer, she made a contribution to the Sanders campaign. I appreciate the bluntness, Hall says. By donating, Hall put herself in a unique position. Forbes could not find any other billionaire or spouse of a billionaire who has donated to the Sanders campaign. For Sanders, the lack of rich supporters has been a point of pride. Not a single billionaire has donated to our campaign, the Sanders camp has proclaimed for months, on bumper stickers, its website, and social media. So how did the campaign respond when Forbes let them know that the spouse of one billionaire had donated? Thanks, a Sanders spokesperson said in an email. We are returning Ms. Hall's contributions. It's not much to send back. According to federal filings, Hall has donated only $470 to the Sanders campaign. Hall is not pleased. I think it's disappointing, she says. I don't understand why they would do that. That's ridiculous.
So if you know Hall person, contact her, then you should give the message of why he returned the check back.
Today in Billionaires. Hall isn't a political heavyweight like Sheldon Adelson or George Soros. In fact, she doesn't seem to have much of a plan for her political donations. She's on the email distribution list of many candidates, she says. When she hears or sees something she likes, she donates in small increments of say, $20 or $100. She liked the way Kamala Harris explained her stance on women's reproductive rights. She's sent her $505. Before Beto O'Rourke dropped out, she liked his calls for stricter gun laws. She sent him $685. She has also appreciated parts of what Andrew Yang, Cory Booker, Elizabeth Warren, and Amy Klobuchar have said. Klobuchar has a very pragmatic approach to politics. She talks about what you can get done, and what you can't get done. So far, Hall hasn't hit the FEC's contribution limit of $2,800 per election to any one candidate. She says she did not even know the limit was $2,800. That's good to know. I likely will do that as we get closer, she says. Promoted. Samsung SD. Hall isn't a political heavyweight like Sheldon Adelson or George Soros. Hall agrees with Sanders on issues like Citizens United, the landmark Supreme Court case that opened the floodgates for billionaires to pour millions of dollars into elections. In 2018, she donated a $557 to a political action committee called End Citizens United. The problem is that there is corruption in some of the big companies, says Hall, who serves as president of Velodyne, the sensor company that made her husband a billionaire. And we run an honest business, and that can be done. That's what democracy and good capitalism is all about. It's running good businesses in a fair and honest way. Other than the billionaire connection, Hall has the resume of a bleeding heart liberal. Born to two professors in Nebraska, she says moved to California as a teenager, got involved in anti-Vietnam protests and attended the University of California at Berkeley. In 2006, her husband, David, who doesn't have as much of an interest in politics, patented a sensor that would allow self-driving cars to detect their surroundings. 12 years later, the value of his stake in Velodyne reached an estimated $1 billion. Mardito Mahal is the head of business development at the company while moonlighting as a sculptor. In the past, she has made public art installations out of recycled steel and glass bottles. Now she says she's working on 3D printing art about female identity and the environment. One problem she has with the Trump administration: the trade war hasn't done her family's business any favors. The Chinese government is cracking down on selling American goods in China, she says. But it's not all self-interest. She supports a higher tax rate on the people like herself. Who will get her vote a year from now? Hall says she's not sure, but if it comes down to Bernie versus the billionaire, she'd be willing to forget about Sanders' rejection. I'd vote for him over Trump any minute. Send me a secure tip. Michaela Tindera, staff writer at Forbes. Email me at mtindera@forbes.com and follow me on Twitter at Tindera07. Print.
Okay. Now for this one. This is probably going to be the best one.
Where's your 2020 candidate on climate? Greenpeace asked the 2020 candidates how they'll act on the climate crisis if they become president. Here's what they said, or didn't say.
Let's see how this page works.
How this page works to stop climate change. This isn't your average candidate scorecard. One click on a candidate. Find out where your candidate stands on kickstarting the hashtag Green New Deal and saying hashtag no to fossil fuels, the recipe for addressing climate change before it's too late. 2. Praise M or shame M. The candidates need to hear from all of us, whether it's praise for a strong climate platform or a call out for half-baked or downright bad ideas if we're going to get aggressive climate action within 10 years and avoid climate catastrophe. 3. Change the course of history. If we push each candidate often and all together, we have a huge opportunity to make real climate action a priority this primary season. Get updates on our hashtag Climate 2020 progress by texting climate to 877 to 877 now. The rankings. Click on a candidate to learn more. A+. 1. Bernie Sanders. D. Green New Deal. 45/50. No fossil fuels. 49/50. A+. 1. Bernie Sanders. D. Green New Deal. 45/50. How they scored. Sanders has committed to take on the
Oh. Hold on. Well, let's just read this and see. Can you even read it? Guess not. So you can... Oh. Never mind. Well, you can find this online. Danny. Oh. I didn't mean to do that. Hang on. There we go. Okay, let's continue where we left off.
How they scored. Sanders has committed to take on the fossil fuel industry and enact a Green New Deal. He'll halt new fossil fuel drilling and phase out existing coal, oil, and gas production. He'll prioritize vulnerable workers and communities in a well-managed transition to a 100% renewable society. He's championed climate justice in the Senate for years and has a detailed plan to continue his legacy if elected president. Read more. Next candidate, rightward arrow. A. 2 Tom Steyer. Indicted, rightward arrow. A. 2 Tom Steyer. D. Green New Deal. 45/50ths. No fossil fuels. 43/50ths. Times. A. 2 Tom Steyer. D. Green New Deal. 45/50ths. No fossil fuels. 43/50ths. Times. A. 2 Tom Steyer. D. How they scored. Steyer has pledged to end giveaways to the fossil fuel industry and put communities on the front lines of environmental injustice first on the way to 100% clean energy by 2045. He'll hold fossil fuel polluters accountable for contributing to the climate crisis. He supports a Green New Deal. Read more. Next candidate, rightward arrow.
Well, that's all the candidates I'm doing. You want to look? You want to find us out? You want to go to the? You want to find out? Go to the website www.greenpeace.com. .org USA/climate 2020. All right. Now let's go to the next. Let's go to the. I'll do that. I'm doing that one. Where's Bernie in this one? Ah! Look at that. Wait. Yeah, is expected of that one. I gotta know how Bernie gets that information. Ram email. A mayor who's shutting down schools and firing teachers. I don't know. Where does he get this information? So. Okay, let's read the
Thread. See new tweets. Sunrise Movement. At Sunrise Movement. December 5th, 2019. Today we released our first batch of #Green New Deal scoring to evaluate where candidates stand on the fight of our lives, and to push all candidates to up their ambition. At Bernie Sanders. 183/200. At Warren. 165/200. At Joe Biden. 75/200. All candidates can improve. Here's how. 40. 385. 1.1K.
That's their scorecard.
Sunrise Movement. At Sunrise Movement. December 5, 2019. At Joe Biden. Has lots of room for improvement. While the plan is comprehensive in scope and rhetoric, it lacks many policy specifics on the goals it sets. We need to see more details, and more overall ambition from former Vice President Joe Biden. 1. 13. 75. Sunrise Movement. At Sunrise Movement. At Warren. Has released her detailed #Green New Deal vision bit by bit. We hope she's not done yet. She could round out her plans with policies on infrastructure, transportation, and the environment to show us how she'd aim to achieve her bold goal of net zero emissions by 2030. 9:22 a.m. December 5, 2019. Twitter for iPhone. 31. Retweets. 144. Likes. Sunrise Movement. At Sunrise Movement. December 5, 2009. Thread. Sunrise Movement. At Sunrise Movement. December 5, 2019. Replying to. At Sunrise Movement. With. At Bernie Sanders. We'd like him to speak with clarity about the urgent need to make a #Green New Deal the top priority of the next president. He could also show us more on how he'd reorganize the government to mobilize his bold and ambitious plan at the scale and speed necessary. 35. 44. 190. Sunrise Movement. At Sunrise Movement. December 5, 2019. We hope the scorecard encourages all candidates to up their ambition. This is a monumentous task and we need all hands on deck. Dig in here, and stay tuned for updates and the next round of candidates. http://scorecard.sunrisemovement.org. 7. 35. 166.
Okay. Let's see what else there is before I have to close it. Before I end this live stream, I'm gonna be ending this live stream sometime a little before to 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, because I got a special live stream for you all to see, and it's 6 hours long. Don't worry, it's already being pre-recorded. So let's see this one. This one was from 2016, but let's still read it anyway.
February 23, 2016. Unless the Democrats run Sanders, a Trump nomination means a Trump presidency. Democrats need to seriously and pragmatically assess their strategy for defeating Trump. A Clinton run would be disastrous. Bernie Sanders is their only hope.
And I don't know why they
Bye.
just...
Nathan J. Robinson. With Donald Trump looking increasingly likely to actually be the Republican nominee for president, it's long past time for the Democrats to start working on a pragmatic strategy to defeat him. Months of complacent, wishful insistences that Trump will disappear have proven false, and with a firm commanding lead in polls and several major primary victories, predictions are increasingly favoring Trump to win the nomination. If Democrats honestly believe, as they say they do, that Trump poses a serious threat to the well-being of the country and the lives of minority citizens, that means doing everything possible to keep him out of office. To do that will require them to very quickly unite around a single goal, albeit a counterintuitive one. They must make absolutely sure that Bernie Sanders is the Democratic nominee for president. The electability question should be at the center of the Democratic primary. After all, elections are about winning, and high-minded liberal principles mean nothing if one has no chance of actually triumphing in a general election. Hillary Clinton has been right to emphasize that the pragmatic achievement of goals should be the central concern of a presidential candidate, and that Bernie Sanders' supporters often behave as if this is immaterial. Instinctively, Hillary Clinton has long seemed by far the more electable of the two Democratic candidates. She is, after all, an experienced, pragmatic moderate, whereas Sanders is a raving, arm-flapping elderly Jewish socialist from Vermont. Clinton is simply closer to the American mainstream, thus she is more attractive to a broader swath of voters. Sanders campaigners have grown used to hearing the heavy-hearted lament, "I like Bernie, I just don't think he can win." And in typical previous American elections, this would be perfectly accurate. But this is far from a typical previous American election. And recently, everything about the electability calculus has changed, due to one simple fact: Donald Trump is likely to be the Republican nominee for president. Given this reality, every Democratic strategic question must operate not on the basis of abstract electability against a hypothetical candidate, but specific electability against the actual Republican nominee, Donald Trump. Here, a Clinton matchup is highly likely to be an unmitigated electoral disaster, whereas a Sanders candidacy stands a far better chance. Every one of Clinton's considerable weaknesses plays to every one of Trump's strengths, whereas every one of Trump's few weaknesses plays to every one of Sanders's strengths. From a purely pragmatic standpoint, running Clinton against Trump is a disastrous, suicidal proposition. Sanders supporters have lately been arguing that their candidate is more electable than people think, and they have some support from the available polling. In a number of hypotheticals, Sanders does better than Clinton at beating Trump, and his unfavorable ratings among voters are a good deal lower than Clinton's. In response to this, however, Clinton supporters insist that polling at this stage means very little, and since Bernie is not well known and there has not been a national attack campaign directed at him from the right yet, his supporters do not account for the drop in support that will occur when voters realize he is on the fringes. Imagine, they say, how viciously the right will attack Sanders's liberal record. Clinton's people are right to point out that these polls mean very little. After all, Sanders's entire campaign success is a caution against placing too much weight on early polling. And they are especially right to emphasize that we should visualize how the campaign by conservatives will realistically play out, rather than attempting to divine the future from highly fallible polling numbers. But it's precisely when we try to envision how the real dynamics of the campaign will transpire that we see just how disastrous a Clinton-Trump fight will be for Clinton. Her supporters insist that she has already been tried and tested against all the attacks that can be thrown at her. But this is not the case. She has never been subjected to the full brunt of attacks that come in a general presidential election. Bernie Sanders has ignored most tabloid dirt, treating it as a sensationalist distraction from real issues. Enough with the demmed emails. But for Donald Trump, sensationalist distractions are the whole game. He will attempt to crucify her. And it is very, very likely that he will succeed. Trump's political dominance is highly dependent on his idiosyncratic, audacious method of campaigning. He deals almost entirely in amusing, outrageous, below-the-belt personal attacks, and is skilled at turning public discussions away from the issues and toward personalities. She's a loser, phony, nervous, hypocrite, incompetent. If Trump does have to speak about the issues, he makes himself sound foolish, because he doesn't know very much. Thus he requires the media not to ask him difficult questions, and depends on his opponents having personal weaknesses and scandals that he can mercilessly exploit. This campaigning style makes Hillary Clinton Donald Trump's dream opponent. She gives him an endless amount to work with. The emails, Benghazi, Whitewater, Iraq, the Lewinsky scandal, Chin Agate, Travelgate, the missing law firm records, Jeffrey Epstein, Kissinger, Mark Rich, Haiti, Clinton Foundation tax errors, Clinton Foundation conflicts of interest, we were broke when we left the White House, Goldman Sachs. There is enough material in Hillary Clinton's background for Donald Trump to run with 6 times over. The defense offered by Clinton supporters is that none of these issues actually amount to anything once you look at them carefully. But this is completely irrelevant. All that matters is the fodder they would provide for the Trump machine. Who is going to be looking carefully? In the time you spend trying to clear up the basic facts of Whitewater, Trump will have made 5 more allegations. Even a skilled campaigner would have a very difficult time parrying such endless attacks by Trump. Even the best campaigner would find it impossible to draw attention back to actual substantive policy issues, and would spend their every moment on the defensive. But Hillary Clinton is neither the best campaigner nor even a skilled one. In fact, she is a dreadful campaigner. She may be a skilled policymaker, but on the campaign trail she makes constant missteps and never realizes things have gone wrong until it's too late. Everyone knows this. Even among Democratic Party operatives, she's acknowledged as awkward and uninspiring on the stump, carrying Bill's baggage with none of Bill's warmth. New York Magazine described her failing to demonstrate the most elementary political skills, much less those learned at Toastmasters or Dale Carnegie. Last year the White House was panicking at her levels of electoral incompetence, her questionable decision-making, and her inclination for taking sleazy shortcuts. More recently, noting Sanders' catch-up in the polls, The Washington Post's Jennifer Rubin said that she was a rotten candidate, whose attacks on Sanders made no sense, and that, at some point, you cannot blame the national mood or a poor staff or a brilliant opponent for Hillary Clinton's campaign woes. Yet in a race against Trump, Hillary will be handicapped not only by her feeble campaigning skills, but the fact that she will have a sour national mood, a poor staff, and a brilliant opponent. Every Democrat should take some time to fairly, dispassionately examine Clinton's track record as a campaigner. Study how the 08 campaign was handled, and how this one has gone. Assess her strengths and weaknesses with as little bias or prejudice as possible. Then picture the race against Trump, and think about how it will unfold. It's easy to see that Trump has every single advantage. Because the Republican primary will be over, he can come at her from both right and left as he pleases. As the candidate who thundered against the Iraq War at the Republican debate, he can taunt Clinton over her support for it. He will paint her as a member of the corrupt political establishment, and will even offer proof. Well, I know you can buy politicians, because I bought Senator Clinton. I gave her money, she came to my wedding. He can make it appear that Hillary Clinton can be bought, that he can't, and that he is in charge. It's also hard to defend against, because it appears to be partly true. Any denial looks like a lie, thus making Hillary's situation look even worse. And then, when she stumbles, he will mock her as incompetent. Charges of misogyny against Trump won't work. He is going to fill the press with the rape and harassment allegations against Bill Clinton and Hillary's role in discrediting the victims, something that made even Lena Dunham deeply queasy. He can always remind people that Hillary Clinton referred to Monica Lewinsky as a narcissistic Looney Tune. Furthermore, since Trump is not an anti-Planned Parenthood zealot, being the only one willing to stick up for women's health in a room full of Republicans, it will be hard for Clinton to paint him as the usual anti-feminist right-winger. Trump will capitalize on his reputation as a truth-teller, and be vicious about both Clinton's sudden changes of position, e.g. the switch on gay marriage, plus the affected economic populism of her run against Sanders, and her perceived dishonesty. One can already imagine the monologue. She lies so much. Everything she says is a lie. I've never seen someone who lies so much in my life. Let me tell you 3 lies she's told. She made up a story about how she was ducking sniper fire. There was no sniper fire. She made it up. How do you forget a thing like that? She said she was named after Sir Edmund Hillary, the guy who climbed Mount Everest. He hadn't even climbed it when she was born. Total lie. She lied about the emails, of course, as we all know, and is probably going to be indicted. You know she said there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. It was a lie. Thousands of American soldiers are dead because of her. Not only does she lie, her lies kill people. That's 4 lies, I said I'd give you 3. You can't even count them. You want to go on PolitiFact, see how many lies she has? It takes you an hour to read them all. In fact, they ask her, she doesn't even say she hasn't lied. They asked her straight up. She says she usually tries to tell the truth. Oh, she tries. Come on. This is a person, every single word out of her mouth is a lie. Nobody trusts her. Check the polls, nobody trusts her. Huge liar. Where does she even begin to respond to this? Some of it's true, some of it isn't, but the more she tries to defensively parse it, there's been no suggestion I'm going to be indicted. And I didn't say I usually tried to tell the truth, I said I always tried and usually succeeded, the deeper she sinks into the hole. Trump will bob, weave, jab, and hook. He won't let up. And because Clinton actually has lied, and actually did vote for the Iraq War, and actually is hyper cozy with Wall Street, and actually does change her positions based on expediency, all she can do is issue further implausible denials, which will further embolden Trump. Nor does she have a single offensive weapon at her disposal, since every legitimate criticism of Trump's background, inconsistent political positions, shady financial dealings, pattern of deception, is equally applicable to Clinton, and he knows how to make such things slide off him, whereas she does not. The whole Clinton campaign has been unraveling from its inception. It fell apart completely in 2008, and has barely held together against the longest of long-shot candidates. No matter how likely she may be to win the primary, things do not bode well for a general election, whomever the nominee may be. As H.A. Goodman put it in Salon. Please name the last person to win the presidency alongside an ongoing FBI investigation, negative favorability ratings, questions about character linked to continual flip-flops, a dubious money trail of donors, and the genuine contempt of the rival political party. The contempt bit of this is obviously silly. We all know levels of contempt have reached their world historic high point in the Republican attitude toward Obama. But the rest is true. It's incredibly hard to run somebody very few people like and expect to win. With the jocular, shrewd Donald Trump as an opponent, that holds true a million times over. Nor are the demographics going to be as favorable to Clinton as she thinks. Trump's populism will have huge resonance among the white working class in both red and blue states. He might even peel away her black support. And Trump has already proven false the prediction that he would alienate evangelicals through his vulgarity and his self-deification. Democrats are insistently repeating their belief that a Trump nomination will mobilize liberals to head to the polls like never before, but with nobody particularly enthusiastic for Clinton's candidacy, it's not implausible that a large number of people will find both options so unappealing that they stay home. A Clinton/Trump match should therefore not just worry Democrats. It should terrify them. They should be doing everything possible to avoid it. A Trump/Sanders contest, however, looks very different indeed. Trump's various unique methods of attack would instantly be made far less useful in a run against Sanders. All of the most personal charges, untrustworthiness, corruption, rank hypocrisy, are much more difficult to make stick. The rich history of dubious business dealings is non-existent. None of the sleaze in which Trump traffics can be found clinging to Bernie. Trump's stand-up routine just has much less obvious personal material to work with. Sanders is a fairly transparent guy. He likes the social safety net. He doesn't like oligarchy. He's a workaholic who sometimes takes a break to play basketball, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Contrast that with the above-noted list of juicy Clinton tidbits. Trump can't clown around nearly as much at a debate with Sanders, for the simple reason that Sanders is dead set on keeping every conversation about the plight of America's poor under the present economic system. If Trump tells jokes and goofs off here, he looks as if he's belittling poor people, not a magnificent idea for an Ivy League trust fund billionaire running against a working-class public servant and veteran of the civil rights movement. Instead, Trump will be forced to do what Hillary Clinton has been forced to do during the primary, namely to make himself sound as much like Bernie Sanders as possible. For Trump, having to get serious and take the Trump show off the air will be devastating to his unique charismatic appeal. Against Trump, Bernie can play the same experience card that Hillary plays. After all, while Sanders may look like a policy amateur next to Clinton, next to Trump he looks positively statesmanlike. Sanders can point to his successful mayoralty and long history as Congress's amendment king as evidence of his administrative bona fides. And Sanders' lack of foreign policy knowledge won't hurt him when facing someone with even less. Sanders will be enough of an outsider for Trump's populist anti-Washington appeal to be powerless, but enough of an insider to appear an experienced hand at governance. Trump is an attention-craving parasite, and such creatures are powerful only when indulged and paid attention to. Clinton will be forced to pay attention to Trump because of his constant evocation of her scandals. She will attempt to go after him. She will, in other words, feed the troll. Sanders, by contrast, will almost certainly behave as if Trump isn't even there. He is unlikely to rise to Trump's bait, because Sanders doesn't even care to listen to anything that's not about saving Social Security or the disappearing middle class. He will almost certainly seem as if he barely knows who Trump is. Sanders' commercials will be similar to those he has run in the primary, featuring uplifting images of America, aspirational sentiments about what we can be together, and moving testimonies. from ordinary Americans. Putting such genuine dignity and good feeling against Trump's race-baiting clownishness will be like finally pouring water on the wicked witch. Hillary Clinton cannot do this. With her, the campaign will inevitably descend into the gutter, and the unstoppable bloated Trump menace will continue to grow ever larger. Sanders is thus an almost perfect secret weapon against Trump. He can pull off the only maneuver that is capable of neutralizing Trump, ignoring him and actually keeping the focus on the issues. Further, Sanders will have the advantage of an enthusiastic army of young volunteers, who will be strongly dedicated to the mission of stalling Trump's quest for the presidency. The Sanders team is extremely technically skilled. Everything from their television commercials to their rally organizing to their inspired teasing is pulled off well. The Sanders team is slick and adaptable. The Clinton team is ropey and fumbling. There's only one real way to attack Bernie Sanders, and we all know it. He's a socialist fantasist out of touch with the realities of economics. But Trump is in the worst possible position to make this criticism. Economists have savaged Trump's own proposals as sheer lunacy, using every word deployed against Bernie and then some. And while from a DC policy veteran like Clinton, charges of a failure to understand how political decision-making works may sound reasonable, Sanders is a successful legislator who has run a city. The host of The Apprentice may have a more difficult time portraying a long-serving congressman as being unfamiliar with how Washington works. Of course, the American people are still jittery about socialism. But they're less jittery than they used to be, and Bernie does a good job portraying socialism as being about little more than paid family leave and sick days, a debatable proposition, but one beside the point. His policies are popular and appeal to the prevailing national sentiment. It's a risk, certainly. But the Soviet Union bogeyman is long gone, and everyone gets called a socialist these days no matter what their politics. It's possible that swing voters dislike socialism more than they dislike Hillary Clinton, but in a time of economic discontent one probably shouldn't bet on it. One thing that should be noted is that all of this analysis applies solely to a race against Trump. The situation changes drastically and unpredictably if Marco Rubio is the nominee or Michael Bloomberg enters the race. Yet at the moment, it doesn't look like Marco Rubio will be nominated, but that Donald Trump will be. And in that case, Clinton is toast. Some in the media have rushed to declare Sanders' campaign moribund in the wake of his recent loss in Nevada. This is absurd. After all, out of 50 states, only 3 have voted, one being a tie, one being a major Sanders win, and one being a small Clinton win. The media has dishonestly pointed to Hillary Clinton's higher superdelegate count as evidence of her strong lead, despite knowing full well that superdelegates are highly unlikely to risk tearing the party apart by taking the nomination out of voters' hands, and are thus mostly a formality. The press has also crafted a narrative about Sanders slipping behind, ignoring the fact that Sanders has been behind from the very start. Not for a moment has he been in front. But even if it was correct to say that Sanders was starting to lose, instead of progressively losing less and less, this should only motivate all Democrats to work harder to make sure he is nominated. One's support for Sanders should increase in direct proportion to one's fear of Trump. And if Trump is the nominee, Hillary Clinton should drop out of the race and throw her every ounce of energy into supporting Sanders. If this does not occur, the resulting consequences for Muslims and Mexican immigrants of a Trump presidency will be fully the responsibility of Clinton and the Democratic Party. To run a candidate who can't win, or who is a very high-risk proposition, is to recklessly play with the lives of millions of people. So much depends on stopping Trump. A principled defeat will mean nothing to the deported, or to those being roughed up by Trump's goon squads or executed with pig's blood-dipped bullets. Donald Trump is one of the most formidable opponents in the history of American politics. He is sharp, shameless, and likable. If he is going to be the nominee, Democrats need to think very seriously about how to defeat him. If they don't, he will be the President of the United States, which will have disastrous repercussions for religious and racial minorities and likely for everyone else, too. Democrats should consider carefully how a Trump/Clinton matchup would develop, and how a Trump/Sanders matchup would. For their sake, hopefully they will realize that the only way to prevent a Trump presidency is the nomination of Bernie Sanders. Nathan J. Robinson. If you liked this article, you'll love our print edition. Subscribe today to Current Affairs magazine. More current affairs. How Britain got its...
Okay, that took longer than expected. And because of that, Hold on. Where's that? There it is. Oh, it's already right there. My bad. All right. It took longer than expected. It took longer than expected. Sorry for that article, but if you want to read this article yourself and click on the links in that article to take you to the websites of proof, then go to
https://medium.com/@westonpagano/10 reasons why Bernie Sanders is our best chance to beat Donald Trump FC 923489333. https://medium.com/@westonpagano/10 reasons why Bernie Sanders is our best chance to beat Donald Trump FC 923489333.
I hope you heard that. All right, or you could just look up in a search engine in a search engine about the 10 reasons why Bernie Sanders is our best chance to beat Donald Trump. But anyway, I gotta close this video because I gotta prepare for the next live stream. So anyway, thanks for watching this live stream. Now don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Like, comment, subscribe, leave a comment down below. And if you can, help my channel grow by subscribing and sharing this channel with as many people as you can. Friends, family, complete strangers, the possibilities are endless. Help this channel reach 1,000 subscribers. And I know it never. Hold on, someone asked me about a debate. And if you can, help this video reach I know I didn't reach the goal during this live stream. So if you can, help this video reach 100 plus views by sharing it with as many people as you can, especially Bernie supporters or with as many Americans as you can. Friends, family, complete strangers, the possibilities are endless. We need Bernie as a nominee to win the Democrat. And as for help the video reach 100 plus views. We need Bernie to win the Democratic nomination. Hold on, there's someone. Hang on. All eyes are on the comments section right now. I'm gonna finish this conversation before I close this video. All right. So he has less than 30 sec. I'll give him 30 seconds to respond. Okay, let's see. Nothing. Alright, I'm closing the video. Until then, this is Jeffrey Bartos saying to you all, vote for Bernie. Vote for Bernie, or Trump will be in office for 4 more years, and we can't risk that. So Bernie 2020, Bernie 2020, all the way. Bye.